What's that? +1. It's America. Hello, welcome to Cosmic Banter. You're speaking with Steve. Oh, Jesse who? Michels. Yeah. Yeah, no, how's it going? Not much, mate. Yeah, no, I'm just chilling. Kind of caught me at a bad time. I was just about to record an intro. Yeah, for episode 19 with Lesley. Mm. Yeah, I know it's been a couple of weeks. I'm sorry, mate. I've just been inundated. Look, as I say, not a great time. How can I help? Yeah, yeah. I saw you on Rogan. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. It was all right. No, it was good. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, Jesse, Jesse, mate. I'm going to stop you there. With all due respect, I've told you this before, mate. Can you please stop hassling me? Okay? I know you've been on Rogan. It doesn't automatically get you a seat on Cosmic Banter. That's not how we do things here. Yeah, I appreciate that. Look, mate, I've had David Grush, Jake Barber try and get in touch. Who else? Diana Pasulka, Hal Put. Talk about a put off. You know, I'm just stressed. I can't do it all. Yeah, yeah. Did Joe mention? Yeah, he's been trying to get me out to Austin. Yeah, what did he say? Yeah, yeah. Sounds about right. Yeah, no, he wants me to do, I don't know, a comedy slot at his club. Yeah, stand up thing. I don't have the time. Yeah, we're doing well, mate. Thank you. About 78 subscribers now on YouTube, but Spotify as well. So 50, 60 or something. Collectively triple figures. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. What? Be more consistent. Okay, Jesse, mate. I'm sorry. Let's not get personal. Let's not get personal. Yeah. Let me remind you, you've got a billionaire backing you in the name of Peter Teele. You've probably got a whole team of advisors and editors, and I don't know, I saw you on Rogan. Yeah, it was good. A lot of big sciencey words, and but for all we know, you could have had an earpiece in and Eric Weinstein's feeding you. Yeah. No, I'm not saying that, Jesse. Don't twist my words. I'm just saying that's how it could appear. Think about me. What am I? I'm out here in New Zealand, boots on ground, boots on carpet, in my room on Zoom. But, it's just me and work and income. Yeah, it's just me working for my income on my own. So, you know what I mean? Thank you. Look, put it this way, mate. As I say, I really can't speak now. Once you've seen a UFO for yourself, right? No, not the orbs. No, like a flying saucer or a tic tac, or yeah, okay, or I don't know, a dog or moth. You're in America. You go off to Michigan or Virginia, whatever. Yeah, yes, yep. Well, a reptilian, that's fine as well. But once you've seen one of those, okay, get in touch with one of my assistants. I don't know, Ross Coulthart. That's fine. Yep. And he's from New Zealand. Yes. Yeah. He defected to Australia. He's just, whatever. It's, yeah, he's just doing a bit of contract work for me. Get in touch with him, as I say. But in the meantime, I'm just too busy. Okay. Thank you for understanding, mate. Yeah, thank you. All right. You go out and bloody hunt for some Bigfoot or something. All right, mate. Yeah. Talk soon. Not too soon. Okay. Bye. Bye. Sorry about that, guys. Welcome back to Cosmic Banter. I swore I wasn't going to do one of these intros again, apologising for the delay in between episodes. But I don't know if you heard, that was Jesse Michels. Have you? Yeah. So anyway, that's just an example, I suppose. If you're new here, welcome. Some of the listeners, some of the guests that we have on, upcoming guests, but yeah, so that's kind of why. But if you are new, welcome. Seriously, please subscribe before you do anything else. You know the drill. You've been on YouTube before. You've been on Spotify. Welcome to Cosmic Banter. I'm your host, Steve. And today we have, for the third time, three-peat on the Cosmic Banter Podcast, Lesley, who, as I said in episode 18, with that story, you didn't need to have heard her first story. These aren't related. These are three separate supernatural encounters. And we don't actually, as a general rule of thumb, we don't do repeat guests, regular guests on the show. What we do is, if you've got an incredible story that's worthy, which this one really was, we'll have you back on as much as you like, as far as I'm concerned. So you don't need to have listened to her first two, but I would strongly encourage that you do, because they're really, really fascinating stories. She appeared on episode 14 and episode 18 as well. Now, I'm not going to repeat everything in the intro. I've been listening back to some of the episodes, mostly to sort of get the views up and stuff. Notice I have a tendency to, just repeat and tell you about what is actually happening in the interview, and then you listen to the interview and you actually find out anyway. So we're not doing that anymore, for today at least. If you want to support, please subscribe, like, comment, all that bullshit. It's not bullshit, but well, at this stage it is a drop in the ocean. Spotify, you can rate 5 stars. You can now also comment. I also set up arbitrary polls and stuff like, do you believe Lesley? Is she telling the truth? Yes or no? And it is arbitrary. The answer is yes, she is telling the truth, but it just helps the algorithm and stuff. So, but don't answer no, but or maybe answer no if you want, just sort of so it's evens out. I'm not really good at this marketing thing, but and we also have donation links in the bio if you're so inclined. Crypto options, debit and credit card as well. Let's crack in, shall we? That was good. I reckon this is good. Okay. Welcome back to the Cosmic Banter Podcast. I haven't thought of a name yet. So this is episode 19. Insert title here. Ever, remain curious. Keep your eyes to the skies. And when the phenomenon decides to reach you, I hope that you decide to reach out to Cosmic Banter. Enjoy, guys. Peace! Good evening, Lesley. Welcome back to the Cosmic Banter Podcast. Hi. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Well, how did you find episode 14 that I finally got around to publishing? Your story with the angels. Did you give it a listen?
Of course, yeah, I had to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you did a really, really good job for that. Yeah, it was really good to kind of share that.
Well, no, you did a great job in telling it, and it was a beautiful story. And yeah, I'm glad it felt nice for you to share as well. And by the time we publish this interview, the listeners would have also had a chance to hear episode 18, which is your encounter and your mother's history with this duende goblin creature.
Yeah.
So neither of us have listened to that as at the time of recording, but the listeners would have. So Lesley, we had that recording with those two stories. Would have been late last year, wouldn't it?
Yes, I believe it was. Yeah.
So yeah, firstly, thanks for your patience. But finally got round to uploading both of them, and we've kept in touch, haven't we? We've chatted here and there since we did that first recording. And I hit you up, was it a week ago, a couple of weeks ago? just sort of saying, how you're doing, how's your mum? And I jokingly said, have you seen anything, have you encountered anything supernatural, any more supernatural stories for me? Not expecting a literal yes, but you did answer yes, didn't you?
Yeah, at the end, I believe it was. I kind of I kind of laughed and giggled. And then I was like, oh, hang on, actually, I have.
Yeah. And I was
Yeah.
like, what, how was the story after you told me? How is the story an afterthought? Like, oh, actually, no, come to think of it, like 2 weeks ago, I had, pretty much one of the most, would you say it was sort of on par? Like, this is one of the most sort of intense encounters for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, so apart from the angels experience, this is, definitely up there. I never thought I would kind of have this experience.
Yeah, well, we're dancing around it, of course, and I think we should just jump in. Hey, I'll just give you some quick feedback, not to put you on the spot. This is just some very positive feedback for you. My dad, both my parents listen to the show; they have to, you know. My dad, my dad mentioned to my neighbor, to his neighbor rather, that I had started this little podcast, and she gave it a listen, and turns out she loves it. Now, I spoke to her about a month ago, and guess what her favorite episode was?
Oh,
Episode 14,
really?
the telepathic trio featuring very special guest Lesley. So she said she's listened to all of them as at a month ago, and that was her favorite. So I just thought I'd share that with you.
Oh, thank you. That's nice to hear. That's the reason why I kind of did want to share it. Like, you never know, what it could mean to someone else, or that's nice.
Never underestimate that. So that's great, and no pressure for this one. I mean, this is a shorter story, which is fine. It doesn't take away from the fact that it's nonetheless a pretty incredible encounter. Would you like to set the scene for us, Lesley? As I said sort of earlier, like, let's slow it right down, and especially for international listeners, could you just sort of describe what day of the week this is, what time, and where are you located, and then sort of take it from there?
Okay. So we live in Manurewa, which is in South Auckland, here in New Zealand. And it was a Saturday morning, very early morning.
I think we worked out it was the 29th of,
yes,
it was the
29th of
morning,
March.
2025.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
So me and the kids go out for a fish often on the weekends, whenever we can. So that's what we had planned for this day. So we all get up at, I definitely get up at 4:00, and then I get them up before we go, 4:00 in the morning. So we headed out driving. So where we fish, we head out south. We head south down to the Waitoa Regional Park, which has a wharf there. That's where we fish. So that's where we're heading that day. Normal morning, we leave at about 4:45, maybe just a bit later than that. So I'm heading out. It's always quite dark. I think the sun rises about 6 something lately. So definitely still very dark. So we're heading out into towards Clevedon. Before, maybe 5-10 minutes before we kind of get to the Clevedon area, which is before the wharf, I noticed there's some lightning, some pink lightning happening in the distance, which I thought was quite strange, as I always check the forecast before fishing so we don't get stuck in any storms or rain. And it was forecasted to be quite a good day, a nice day. So I thought that was the first weird thing. It didn't look like your normal lightning you'd see in like the thunderstorms. The color alone was really strange. It was like a very orangey pink, just
Really?
flash of light, and then it stops. And then I'd say maybe a minute or so later, it would flash again. Same spot, same color, everything. It was just the same.
Wow.
So
And
I was,
did this seem far off in the distance, or?
at the point where I first noticed it, yeah, it was still quite far out. But it was looked like it would be in the area where we would kind of end up near the
Okay.
wall. Yeah.
So not too far out. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's what that felt like to me, seeing it. So there was that, and I was like, okay, that's weird, but kept on driving because not much is going to stop me from my fishing on the weekend.
Yeah.
So we continue on, but then not long after I first noticed the lightning, to my left, I kind of noticed some lights, which were at this point still, quite far away, quite high up, and I couldn't really make out too much about what it was or what it looked like, but I did see them, and I was like, that's weird, and thought maybe there's some crafts, planes out and about, who knows. But they just didn't look like a plane at this point. So I just noted it. I wasn't really too worried about it at this point, and just continued on. Through the very dark roads, driving to get to Clevedon, like there's barely any street lights, so it's quite eerie. A lot, like just driving there without weird stuff happening. It's very eerie. So continue on as we're getting closer to Clevedon, which is it's a very small kind of town centre in Clevedon. We're getting closer, and the lights seem to be getting bigger. Like they're either getting closer to the ground or closer to where I was heading. And I did note that, okay, that really doesn't look like a plane or anything, or a helicopter or anything I've ever seen.
So do you say lights plural? So you can see like individual lights at this point?
Yes. So what they looked like at this point was just a little line, like a very straight line of lights, and about 4 to 6. I didn't count them, but it was either 4 or 5 or 6. Probably not 4. I'd say more 5 or 6 lights. There was a few of them, but they were all different colors. There was a nice or green, red, maybe a yellowy orange.
Okay.
But there
Wow.
were, let's say there was 5, so there'd be like maybe 2 greens and 2 reds and an orange. I can't remember specifically, but it was like that. There was that mix of colors, and just very straight in a line like that.
Right.
They weren't really flashing. You see planes, they have to have those flashing lights, I guess, to make themselves very visible, and so they weren't really flashing or anything. So we're getting close to Clevedon, and I can see them coming closer, and still see the lightning going on, and kind of everything I was starting to feel a bit uneasy, because I did have my 16-year-old daughter in the car who's just busy scrolling on her phone, and my 10-year-old son in the front passenger with me, who was in and out of sleep because he was still tired. And so with all of that going on, I was feeling just a bit uneasy with my young one in the car. But as we were heading, like we were into Clevedon now, into the little town centre, you slow down. It's a 50 zone, so we slow down, and the lights are right there, and they're quite close. And I'm like, okay, I really want to see what this is before I continue on. I was like, I need to see what this is, and I need to see what that lightning is. So I was like, maybe I should check the forecast. So I just mentioned to my girl in the back, I said to her, hey, like, I didn't want to alert or scare anyone at this point, but I said, hey, I'm just going to pull into the gas station, the petrol station here, the Z, and I'm just going to check the forecast because that lightning's really weird. Like, I don't know what that is. And she was like, okay. And so I pulled in to the gas station. And pulled into the car park the line of car parks there. And I did check the forecast.
And at this
And
stage, your daughter is like, you've only acknowledged the lightning. You haven't discussed with either of the kids these line of lights that you're also seeing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I probably would have brought it up with my girl if it was just us. At that point, I didn't want to scare my boy. I didn't want him to he does get a bit of anxiety here and there, so I didn't want that to kind of kick in. And so I didn't say a thing. I said, I'm going to stop. I'm going to check the forecast because that lightning's weird. Just to not alert anyone and have her being like, what are you doing? So yeah, pulled in and I checked it. And as I obviously checked the night before, no storms, nothing. Forecast is going to be a really nice day. And at that point, I was like, okay, checked that. And then I wanted to have a look at those lights as they were close to where we had pulled up. So, but where I had parked, I couldn't, they were kind of, I think at this point, not in a direct, like in my direct line of sight. It was kind of behind the fish and chip shop that was across the road at this point. They were moving, but they were moving really, really slowly. So I kind of had to I pulled the car back a bit. And then when I did that, they came into like a clear line of sight. I could see all of the lights and everything. It was there in the middle of the fish and chip shop and I think it's a little gift store next to it.
Yeah, at this
Right.
point, I'll edit in what you've shown me, or in a second I will, just the Google Street View. So yeah, so what did you see at this point?
Okay, so I pulled the car back and I just turned my head fully to the right so I can get a good look at it. And I don't know what I was expecting. I really don't, but I looked and I saw the lights that I'd seen, the little line of lights. But as it was so low to the ground and so close to where we were, even in the dark, I could make out the outline of the rest of it. Whereas before, earlier on driving, all I could see was the lights. So what I saw was the line of lights, but then also a very prominent dome shape on the top, and then a slightly less, maybe thinner dome on the bottom of it. So looking at it, I saw what you would see as the old school flying saucer-shaped craft. You see them plastered everywhere. That's what UFOs were. We all thought that's what UFOs were back in the day, and now we're having all these different shaped UAPs and everything, but that is what I saw, was the old school disc-shaped, saucer-shaped craft.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're saying quite literally, like, you're not sort of imagining, you're not sort of trying to relate it to something that we all know in pop culture. You're saying it looked precisely like what we all know as a flying saucer.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I saw.
Oh my God. What did you do next? And how did you feel?
So as soon as I saw the shape of it, I went into almost like a state of shock. It was instant fear almost. Something in me just kind of dropped. I don't know what I could relate it to. Maybe if you saw a ghost or something, it's that instant shock, like what am I seeing right now? And something in you just kind of drops. And because my kids were in the car, my first thought was, shit, like what do I do? Do I just take them home? Do we continue on? But I was definitely scared in that moment. So I kind of just made a decision, like, okay, we're going to just continue on. And so I pulled out. I said to my daughter, I said, okay, there's no storms forecasted. We'll continue on. It'll probably be all right.
So at this stage, you haven't even started your fishing.
No, not at all.
So what
Not at
time
all.
is this roughly?
This would
Like,
have been about 5:45 a.m., maybe 10 to 6. I think we were a little bit later that day. We try to be at the wharf for 6 a.m. when the gate opens.
so you're now
Yeah.
talking to your daughter about the forecast, the lightning, and you're now starting to turn home and not even do
No,
the
not at
fishing
this point. Not just
Okay.
yet. I
Okay,
was
sorry,
still trying
continue.
to run. Yeah. I was trying to soldier on and like I said, not it's gonna take a lot to stop me from fishing. So at this point I told her, Kate, we'll continue on. Pulled out of the gas station and continued on. We only made it, there's a roundabout just ahead, so I go around the roundabout, start heading up the road to go onto the windy roads, and then the lightning goes off again. And just something about that, I guess, with what I'd just seen and the lightning still going on, I don't know what the word is. I don't know what it was. I just swung the car into the next driveway, and I said to my daughter, I said, "Oh, maybe we'll try another weekend. I don't, I'm just a bit hesitant with the storm. I don't know. We'll just go home, And I just swung the car around and boosted it back the other way, which she didn't say anything at the time. She kind of said, "Oh, okay," but she did tell me later that how strange that was and how that actually, my reaction there actually scared her because she knew that lightning wouldn't have stopped me from going fishing. The whole car ride home was just silent, and I was just, my foot was on the pedal, I was going. She didn't say a thing until we got home, but she did tell me that, that scared her because she kind of knew that something else was wrong, but I didn't tell her anything till we got home.
Yeah. Wow. So she didn't see the lights. She didn't see the craft when you stopped at the Z petrol station, but you did tell her when you got home. What did she say?
So when we finally got home, the boy jumped back into bed and went to sleep, and me and my daughter were putting away the bait back into the freezer. And as soon as I got the chance, as soon as we got to the freezer, I just looked at her and I said, "Did you see the lights?" And she looked at me, she was like, "No, what lights?" And then I told her what I'd seen. I was like, "I'm pretty sure I just saw a UFO. Like, I can't believe you didn't see them," kind of thing. We just had a little kind of chat about it, but to my knowledge, she did not see them. But like I said, all she does in the car is her eyes are glued to her phone and she's scrolling. So I'm not surprised that she didn't see them. But yes, but then she did say, that's when she told me, she was like, I knew it. I knew something else was up. Because like the way you were acting was just weird. Like she said she actually got scared. She thought something really bad was happening.
Yeah, wow. So she picked up on the fact that you were in a pretty strange mood.
Yeah, a strange state, which was, I guess, fear and shock. But it was mostly, I just wanted my kids safe, somewhere safe. Like in that moment where you don't know what that is that you've just seen. As a parent, I think everyone's first thought is, I got to get my kids somewhere safe. And I think that's all that was on my mind.
Yeah, because I was going to ask whether that sort of state of shock and fear, whether you felt that was sort of put upon you, like projected from the craft, because some people do have that experience, or whether it was your own sort of animalistic and quite frankly motherly response. That was your first instinct. You felt it was more that as opposed to coming from something else?
Yeah, because I did think about that myself. I was like, because I personally, when you think about UFOs, aliens, I personally don't think that there's ill intent if they exist, and so I like to think that I wouldn't be scared of them if I ever encountered them. But so yeah, I've reacted so different to what before this, what I thought I would, how I would react. But I did think about it, and when I really thought into it, it wasn't from the craft itself. I don't feel it like it was negative energy coming from it. It was more just my mother instinct kicking in, like, I gotta get my boy. It's mainly my boy, my girl. I think she's old enough, but I didn't want him scared. I didn't want him getting anxious and being traumatized from, seeing something, or, who knows what could have happened. Or, yeah, it was definitely mother instinct, just protect the young ones.
Well, I think any mothers listening can relate to that. So, yeah, that makes total sense. Now, at this stage, Lesley, I would have edited in the clip that you sent me, which is a screenshot of Google Street View, and you have done your best to create an AI recreation of the craft, and you've placed it on that screenshot. So my question to you is, have you, obviously it's not going to ever be 100% accurate, but the distance away from the fish and chip shop that craft is, as you've sent it to me, and the other house to the left of that fish and chip shop, and the size of the craft itself, is that what we're looking at right now? Is that representative of what you saw? How far away, how close essentially it was to you?
Yep. I did my absolute best to try and recreate exactly what I saw. That's as close as I can to get like the size of what I saw, the lights, the shape. Yeah, essentially I wanted to kind of create something for you to show you what I saw with my eyes. I obviously, except it was dark, so I couldn't.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see the outline of it, the shape of it, but no other details apart from the lights and the shape outline.
But you're familiar with this area, so yeah, that's what it looks like during daytime, and of course the listener, the viewer, will just have to pretend that that's very early dusk, very early, just before sunset. Okay. No, and I appreciate that. So the view, the perspective that we're looking at the fish and chip shop from, essentially where the Google Maps camera would have been positioned, is that essentially where the Z petrol station is?
Yes, so that view there that I've created, that is across the road. So at the gas station, the Z station, and one of the car parks. So I'm essentially right across the road, just parallel to that.
Well, if that's the case, that's uncomfortably close.
And it really was. And I think that's most of the reason why I reacted the way I did. Like, if I feel like if it was higher up, quite far away, I would have been like, whoa, that's crazy, and then just continued on fishing. I felt like, whatever was in that craft could see me. That's how close it was.
So you're not going to know for certain, but do you think there would have been something in that craft piloting it?
I wish I knew.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think so. Just from, what we know. I've heard bits and pieces about these newer kind of UAPs that get seen around, and orbs and things that they're unpiloted essentially. But with these old ones, I kind of do feel like there was definitely someone or something inside of it. But
Isn't
like
it
I said, it
interesting?
was moving so slowly as well. That's also what made me, it was just so eerie because planes, you kind of know the planes, how they move quite fast. This one was moving so slowly
And
and
we
on
worked
a bit
out
of a,
on a bit of a tilt, which is important detail.
mm,
Yeah, and we worked out that basically we worked out that this would have been in the west. We sort of worked out your
yes.
position and where the sun rose and all of that. So we're looking west when you look from the perspective of this photo. And is it, when you say it's moving very slowly on that tilt, which is, by the way, common with, especially with the saucer crafts, the
Mm,
reports of sightings of the saucers is that they are often on a tilt. Um, is it
mm.
moving left or right of screen?
I feel like it was moving to to the right. So if I'm looking at it, it's moving right. So essentially it was moving upwards then because it was kind of on that tilt. Um, yeah.
So it's kind of moving to the right, but like upwards, like
It, it wasn't on a big tilt. So it was almost moving kind of flat, but just slightly tilted up to the right. I don't know if that
okay.
makes sense.
No, yeah, it
But
does.
like I said, I didn't stick around too long to see where it went or if it zapped off like some people, say they do. But when I was watching it, it was just creeping ever so slowly.
Yeah, well, no, you've done a fantastic job at describing what you could. I think it's pretty noteworthy that even at dusk, before sunrise, you were close enough to make out the shape, the craft itself, the dimensions, the what did you describe it having on top of the craft? A dome?
Yeah, the dome shape in the center on top,
Well, that's, I
and then
guess,
just
why
a
they call them flying saucers, right? Because it's like
yeah,
a saucer upside down, and that's the
mm,
dome part. So, and
yeah,
then there was a smaller dome underneath, did you say?
yeah. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't even call it a dome. It's just kind of like a flatter, thinner thing on the underneath of it. But definitely the top dome was prominent, and I saw that very clearly.
Yeah. And look, you've done a great job at, recreating it as best you can with the AI and then placing it on, an accurate position of Google Maps Street View. So thanks. That's really helpful, Lesley. I do
No
have to
worries.
ask though, did it not go through your head to get a photo? Like what happened there?
Yes. Trust me, I kick myself. You don't know how much I hated myself. As soon as I got home, actually, um, I realized that that didn't even enter my mind. And actually, as soon as I got home, put away the stuff, I messaged my best friend and I said, I just saw a UFO. And she eventually messaged back. She was like, what? She was like, actually, she said something like, I need what you've been smoking. Not that I smoke, but and then she calls me. She was like, "What? Tell me what the heck?" And then she said, "Did you get video? Did you get a photo or video?" And I said, "Oh my god!" I said, "No, I didn't. No, I didn't." So it hadn't even entered my mind. But um, yeah, I can tell you honestly that that thought of just pulling out the camera, getting something, did not enter my mind at that moment. All it was fear and wanting to protect the kids and get them out. But it's strange to me because like I've been quite interested in UFOs ever since I was a little girl. Me and my best friend would lie on the road and would have little flashlights and we'd be, pretending we're actually doing something, trying to summon some aliens, to come down. And so I've always kind of been a fan, I guess you'd say,
Mm.
of the UFO world. But so I always thought, if I ever got to see one, I would definitely I'd get something. I'd get some footage. I'd even, if I saw a craft, I'd go up to it and I'd, interact with who was there. That's how gutsy I thought I was. But that thought was not there, and I think that just shows that we think we know what we'd do in a situation, but you could react so completely different. And I mean, it might have been different if I didn't have my boy, with us, because he is the main reason I went into such a strong protective mama mode, because he's so young. Whereas if it was just me and my 16-year-old girl, she's a tough one, I think maybe I might have been like, oh my God, look at that. And we would have pulled out some cameras and got something. I do regret it. I regret it so much that I didn't.
Because you're a fan of the, subject. Not you're not obsessed or anything, but you, as you say, since a young age, being sort of interested in whether there's other life out there. And so I can imagine that, that you'd be kicking yourself afterwards because...
Yeah, and I've always wanted to see one, Steve. I've always wanted to see one. That's the bizarre thing about this. I've gone 40 years and I've not seen anything that I can say, oh my God, that was weird. I've seen Elon's Starlink, I've seen drones, I've seen all of those, but I've not ever seen something like this, and I've always wanted to. And then I fail when I do see it.
No, you don't fail, but I can understand the how you'd feel personally, like why didn't I? I think anyone with any level, any ounce of empathy can appreciate, whether they believe in UFOs or not, that that's probably the last thing that's going to be on your mind. And I completely understand that. I think let's swap UFO for, I don't know, some sort of monster. If you came across something and your mind, as far as your mind was concerned, this thing wasn't supposed to be real, or you'd heard about it, but you'd never actually had confirmation. It was also rumors, and you're now face to face with it. Just the shock from that alone, I can't imagine even I would think straight away to whip out my camera and start my phone and start taking photos. So I completely understand that. For the skeptics, they're just they always ask, well, look, if millions of people have seen these things, where are the photos? I get that, but there's all sorts of convenient things around it. Like, as you say, you may have been a bit braver or a little less sort of in shock had your boy not been in the car. But the point is he was. And you get these reports of people who maybe it did go through their mind to take a photo, and they pull out their phone, which when they left the house was on 80-90% charge, and it's now completely dead. Or they do have a proper DSLR camera or something, and conveniently it doesn't work, or again, it's the battery's dead. I've even heard of cases of people taking photos and it works. The phone or the camera is on, the battery's on, and then when they look back in the library, their photo library, there are no photos. So would you agree? Would you say that this phenomenon, this UFO phenomenon, and whatever is behind it, whatever intelligence, kind of either can sort of influence how we see them and how our technology interacts around them, but especially in your case, like, do you feel that it allowed you to see it because it knew the circumstances, that you would be with your boy, that you wouldn't be taking, any photos, there's no one else out at that hour. Do you get that impression, or hard to say?
It is hard to say. Yeah, I couldn't say either way on that. I know that, like you said, there are instances where people say that their electronics are messed up when they are around these things. So, I don't know. I can't say.
Well,
I just wish I tried.
yeah. I know you're cooking yourself, but
Yeah.
anyone would, and also anyone should be able to relate to the fear and the shock of seeing something that is, well, at least in the mainstream, as far as society is concerned, this shouldn't exist. Even if you're already interested in UFOs and believe that they're real, if this is the first face-to-face encounter that you've had, I can totally relate. I would feel the same, I'm sure. We'll wrap that up now, Lesley. That's an incredible story. And don't be too hard on yourself that you didn't get a photo, because I think it's
I'll
understandable. And you've done the next best thing, which is describe it in detail for us here on the Cosmic Banter Podcast. And we've got the AI recreation. So thank you so much for your time. And it was an honor to have you back for a third time on the show.
No, and thank you. Thank you for having me back and tell my little experience. I appreciate it.
Yep. And, I'm going to be keeping at you asking whether she had seen anything else supernatural is what I was going to ask Lesley. The Zoom cut off. I think that I may have failed to pay the monthly Zoom premium subscription that month. So yeah, it kind of cuts off after half an hour or an hour on the free version. Pretty unprofessional, eh? But anyway, I did speak to Lesley straight after we got cut off, and we were literally wrapping things up. So there was nothing left to add, and she was happy with that. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I did just want to jump in quickly and say, as I was speaking to Lesley afterwards, she did want to really reiterate the pink lightning. Now, we went through the story before we actually recorded things, and she did speak about the lightning a bit more in depth the first run through. To be clear, just to reiterate, this is before dawn, this is before sunrise at least. So it's night sky, but it's a clear sky. She specifically said that it was strange that there was no one out at such a time in that area on a Saturday morning, because it was perfect fishing weather, still air, and completely clear skies. She made that really clear. But as she was driving southbound, to her right, roughly, was where they were headed, to this wharf. And that is where there was this one patch of sky that had this really strange pink lightning. As I say, the entire night sky was otherwise completely clear. So I asked Lesley, well, if that was by the wharf where you were headed, do you think it could have been some electrical storm way off the coast? And she said, no, it was very obvious that it was sort of hanging just above where they were headed to fish. And she wanted to also emphasize that this strange pink lightning had been going on all night, and it was unlike any other sort of lightning storm she'd ever seen. She'd never seen pink lightning before. We don't know if this is related to the craft sighting at all, but it in itself was enough for her to notice, and enough for others, in fact, to notice, because when I was preparing this interview and speaking to Lesley, she actually sent me a TikTok that someone else had uploaded from that same night of this bizarre lightning. So I can't off the top of my head right now remember the date, but we mentioned it in the episode. If you're interested, try and find the date, because it would have been the Saturday morning. They were up early, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. So I think the Friday, whatever date that was, the day before, that night, if you could look up that date on TikTok if you were interested, and just search Pink Lightning Auckland. I think it was seen in the Waikato and Hamilton sort of area as well. There was quite a few people, and in the comment section as well, commenting how strange this was. And I think the weird thing was I had already come across that video, obviously not knowing that is exactly what Lesley had seen, and not even knowing that she had the story at that stage. Now, these sort of things, especially on TikTok, especially filmed at night on a smartphone, in and of themselves maybe don't look that spectacular or suspicious, but these people that uploaded it, and everyone in the comments, and Lesley herself, was adamant that this was really strange, and the lightning was going on all night. Pink lightning in one area, and not out in the distance, out to sea. And I thought that was just interesting. She really wanted me to make note of that. Again, maybe no correlation at all, but it was strange because it seemed that it was, as she says, hanging right over the wharf that they were headed to fish, and that no one was out. Now, you might think 5 a.m, why would anyone be out? Well, apparently that area where they were headed is a very common fishing spot. And anyone who knows anything about fishing, first thing in the morning before sunrise is perfect time to fish. So she thought that was strange, that it was a weekend, no wind, clear skies, and yet there was almost no one out on the roads. Normally it would be heaving with people with their trucks and boats and all sorts going out to fish. So that was another thing that she really wanted me to emphasize. So pink lightning happening all night in an isolated area just above the wharf at a time that would normally be bustling with fellow fishermen, fisherwomen, enthusiasts, and yet there was no one out. And that is the context in which she saw the craft. How incredible. I forgot to mention at the start during my intro that this was an audio-only episode. If you were just listening to the audio, I would encourage you to go back when we're talking about the AI recreation that she whipped up, as well as the screenshot of the Google Maps, because I've actually done a screen recording of the Google Maps area and sort of panned around, so you can see exactly where Lesley was and exactly where she was looking, and she did her very best to work out exactly how to prompt the AI to create as realistic a craft as what she saw. So yeah, if you did just listen to audio only, please go back and watch that part. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll leave my opinions at the door because it's not about me, and shall we just leave it at that? Fascinating story. As ever, guys, if you've had a similar story or really anything that falls within the realm of the supernatural, please reach out. Cosmic Banter Podcast. Thanks for your patience, and I'm looking forward to the next few episodes that I've got lined up for you guys. Thanks for your patience. It'll be worth the wait. Hope everyone has a good night. Peace. Bye. Bye.